guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are here at PSI. It's been a long 2 days, Sean, and one of the main important things is that we wanted to get the right ride height, the right suspension on my G80 M3. This is a more in-depth video about the Moton AST suspension because there's so much information that I couldn't put in one video that we're going to talk in this video. So if you guys haven't seen the last video, it's going to be down in the description. But Sean, you have a whole bunch of different setups here. What do we have going on?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of bring together some of the different configurations of suspension and kind of go through what's on each car, what makes different suspensions different. So I have a couple different setups here from Moton. I'll bring some ASTs also over, but we can kind of talk about the brands and what's AST and Moton, and is it two different brands? Is it one? The real answer is that it's actually two brands. It's under one house, which is AST, and the story is both companies actually started, Moton Suspension and AST Suspension, both started in '99, and they both ran and they both did different designs. They had their own stuff. Moton was always a more motorsport focused brand. AST was always for kind of a street sport type of a customer, like a dual purpose or like a Ken, where they want to change the wheels. They want to do different things, and so. Both companies had success. Moton had a lot of success in really high profile races like Rolex
24-hour Le Mans, right?
Yep, Le Mans 24-hour with Porsche and with BMW as the main focus for Moton. And some historic stuff we can point out BMW wise is the ALMS M3 GTRs with the V8, the E46 M3 GTRs with the famous S62 motor ran Moton 4-ways, which is actually, we have a Moton 4-way actually here on display. And we can get into the different ways in a minute, but we kind of want to touch on the history. So Moton and AST were existing together. They're both made in Holland. Every single component is made in the factory in Valkenswaard. And in 2011, Moton's partners split, and AST actually bought the Moton brand. So Moton became part of AST, but the brands and the way that they designed the coilover designs were completely different. So they were always kept separate and always marketed separate. And now in 2016, I took over doing the distribution and the development for motorsport for both the brands. And now here we are, 2023. I'm actually stepped away from doing the distribution because Turn 14 distribution is actually doing that. But I am still doing a lot of the product development and a lot of the special setups for the guys out there that are doing race cars like S2000s, BMW, some Miata racing, some Porsche setups, and the special stuff for the street guys like we did with Ken's car, with the Stance Parts Cup kit, with the Moton one-way, and some of the special stuff. But we also do finalized development here in-house with my tech Adam. We do some of the stuff where the factory will make a set, they'll send it over, and we'll finalize it for the US market, we'll finalize it for the street, and then put it out there for the consumers. And we were responsible and worked with the factory on some of the G80 lowering springs that were super popular.
Correct.
The ALS kit, which is
and you guys took feedback from people too, right? Because you guys had two versions of the AST springs that I noticed, right?
Yeah, we did. We had a couple versions of it. We made some revisions, and part of Moton and AST's kind of mantra is continuous improvement. When they make a product, they're going to continuously improve it and continuously make it better as the years go on. It's not frozen in time, so to speak. So that goes on with a lot of the springs. It goes along with some of the sleeve kits, and also into the coilovers as well.
I know Moton, right? I guess the founder, right? I was doing some reading about it. He was heavily involved in the motorsport aspect, right? He worked for Coney, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is, I guess you're mentioning in that video that we filmed yesterday and today, that everybody branched off and did their own thing, but they developed AST, and then you got into the history a little bit, which is great because for me, I'm not going to track my car. Maybe I'll take it to an autocross here and there once in a blue moon, but one of the things that Moton and AST that I learned to know about is that you guys have a lot of different setups for different situations.
Yeah, I mean, we have flexibility. We can make Moton kits for street cars. We can make ASTs for race cars because everything is made to order. Most of the stuff is not an on-the-shelf type of a product, especially when we get into more advanced like 4-way and 3-way and 2-way setups. There is some box-moving stuff. There is some on-the-shelf product, but we have flexibility to make a kit with the stance parts. We've also made some safari kits for Porsche where they want to have a damper that's 50 millimeter longer to raise the ride height of a car to make it more of a rally spec. We've been doing a lot of Fire Road Subaru kits for 52 and 5300 AST customers where it's a guy with an STI. He wants to go on the fire roads in Colorado in the summer. they're jumping a little bit, they're racing through really soft sand, and they want to have a lot more travel than even our really long travel ASTs have. So they go with a 5300 setup with that long travel, and they get to raise the ride height. They can do some jumps and some stuff like that. So it's neat. It's neat to be able to do that special work. Some of the other stuff we do is we do a lot of Pikes Peak work.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of LMR development work, and that's where a shock like this. So this is an eye-to-eye damper for an LMP car. So this is and it's called eye-to-eye because there's an eye on each side and how it's mounted. So it's mounted in the chassis. You can mount this, you know, if it can be a cantilever mount, which you can mount eye-to-eye. It can mount anywhere. This is also something like SLR race cars run, eye-to-eye dampers. And then we have like a McPherson style, which is this one here. This is actually an F80 setup here with this crazy big top mount that's known, you know, it's an F80 thing. And then on the table where Ken is, this is an actual spindle. This is a Moton one-way for a classic Porsche. So this is anything from like late 60s into the 80s classic Porsche setup where we use the OEM spindle. It's actually put on a jig and made new again, and then it's put into and welded into the collar and made into one piece for the classic Porsche. So there's a really wide range of product that can be done for anything. And we've literally made Motons and ASTs for any car. Like we just did a setup like this eye to eye for a 32 Roadster street rod.
Okay.
But the guy had a Porsche race car, wanted Motons on it, so we hit him up with an eye to eye like this. So really imagination is a cool thing, and we have the flexibility with the factory because everything's made in house that we can do anything that's needed, we can do anything custom, and it makes us kind of a special breed.
Like bespoke
of
a little bit,
company.
right? Because
Yeah,
everybody has a
100%.
different situation, right? For me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are watching this, right? You guys want the right ride height, right suspension for streetable driving, but you also want the right fitment. And a lot of things that I've envisioned before with my F80, like I wanted a coilover where I could put a cup kit. And, you know, Sean and I were discussing that, I would probably say about a year and a half ago. And this talk was actually made able to happen because Sean had the vision, and he also knows that AST Moton is actually compatible with stance parts. And to be honest, I just took a ride with the kit itself. It is absolutely incredible. Like I'm talking about the ride quality and also the rebound as I hit bumps. I'm gonna have to do a full review about that, and you guys know that I'm gonna give me some time. I'm gonna let it break in a little bit because there is a period, right, where it needs to kind of settle in, right?
Yeah, I
but
mean,
not too much because it does settle in the height.
correct, but there's a settle and a break-in for the springs,
Okay.
which a lot of people know about in the settle. And really, a lot of the springs that we use are double blocked, which means they're fully compressed twice in production. To means they're not going to settle a lot, so you're not going to get.
Is that a common
an
practice
inch.
or?
Yeah, most of the major spring manufacturers like Swift, the ones that we use, like Eibach, Germany, like a lot of those do, but there's still some coilovers out there that are not done like that. But there's also the break-in for the damper, because the damper has a lot of parts, a lot of seals that it needs to move through. It needs to build up temperature, it needs to move through the travel of the damper, and you'll see that too, because the feel that you may have, Ken, when you leave, it'll soften up a little bit because it's going to break in, and you'll see that. So, you know, kind of best practices, which I was just telling Ken, is that we just finished his car. We're going to want to see him back in a couple weeks. Ken's not really local, so it's a lot different. It's harder. But
3 hours away.
Yeah, but a local customer, when we do anything like this and we set it up, we're going to want to see him back in 2 to 3 weeks to check the ride height, to check to make sure everything's good, and get some feedback. Do we need to adjust the rebound? Do we need to change the camber? Whatever that is. And because we have the adjustable camber plates, we're able to adjust the front camber like we did on the alignment rack. And so it's all a part of this. Doing this level of product on level of a car like a G80, it takes a lot of support. It takes a lot of know-how. It takes a lot of stuff in stock, like all the springs that we had. It takes the alignment rack that we were just on. It takes all those special tools to be able to do this and get what you want, because what you guys want out there and what Ken wants and what I want are maybe completely different things. And you may have a different wheel setup. There might be a different brake setup. The front lip might be different. There's so many factors involved. You might have SPL
Tire setup,
arms.
yeah, tire setup.
Tire setup, 100%. You might have SPL arms. There's a ton of common denominators that we can do on every car, but there's a lot of outliers that takes extra time. So it's just important in this video that we kind of walk through all that stuff.
I want to add, you know, like bringing back to, we filmed a little bit with Corey. Corey had a experience with KEWs, right? And he had the stance parts kits. He had some information from other people that have used that setup, but for some reason, it still wasn't to his liking. He felt like the car was going to break, right? And one of the things about that, if you were to call, I guess, probably customer service, he wasn't getting any customer service when it became to that custom level, because I don't think they do that stuff with that brand. But with Moton AST, I think, dealing with the ride height originally, right? Because when we first put the coilover kit on the car, the front was mega high, right? It wasn't even lowered.
Yeah.
But then you knew that if we changed the spring height, also the spring rate, it's going to be something that I'm going to enjoy aesthetically, right? And also physically, because it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
So, which is, again, they're part of the development here with Moton AST. But you guys did amazing work.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, and it's important. I mean, like I said, what Ken wants and what you may want is completely different. And it's about the support of the brand. It's about support of these dampers and the explanation of how to adjust them. Because, like, when I sell a kit like this, there's not a magic bullet setting like, oh, your rebound needs to be 7 and compression needs to be 8 for your G80. It's completely different for everybody, and it's about explaining that. It's about qualifying customers for what they're buying, and to make sure, like, Ken doesn't need a two-way kit, and it has nothing to do with Ken. Like, Ken, I know what he's doing with the car, and I know what he's going to do with the car, and the one way is going to be more than enough to be exactly what he needs. But some customers that are maybe doing more track, that are maybe changing the tires and wheels when they go to the track, running aero, that's when you move into like a two-way setup or a three-way or a four-way like this, where you need that more adjustment, you need all that, and that's all part of customer qualification and what you're going to do with the car.
But I'm not gonna lie, there is customers out there that just want the top of the line, the most, unique things, right? Because you don't see a ton of people like me, stance guys, that rock a Moton four-way. Again, it might be overkill than what I need, but I know some people have done that,
Yeah, and the cool thing is like when we first relaunched Moton, and it was never gone, we just relaunched it really into the world again, especially in the US. We had a lot of street guys that wanted the Moton name on the car.
Yeah.
And that was before we even did a one-way kit. That was when we only had 2, 3, and 4 ways. And we did a lot of two-way kits that were for street cars that we were able to valve internally for the street. So we can do anything. It's just kind of something that you bring to me and you say, hey, I want to do this. I collaborate with the factory and we do it. So, there's a lot more coming. We have a lot more cars we're doing. We're going to do an X-Drive next with a similar setup that we did for Ken, which is another pretty famous G80 around the G80 world.
It's been around twice, so that should give you a hint, right?
Yeah, that's a good hint.
It's unfortunate because I think last year or just around this time something drastically happened, but thankfully he's okay. But you said a lot of different developments are coming around. I'm sure a lot of people on different platforms would definitely be interested on having this unique combination. But again, you have to speak to the right people. And again, the guys here at PSI could walk you and put you right to the right steps.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I'll point out is, one of the things that I do, and we have service centers for Moton AST. So we don't do any servicing of the dampers here in this facility. We do all the development for the road and development for race cars. But a lot of the servicing is done. We have 2 service centers, one in Mooresville, North Carolina, and then one out in Sonoma. But they go to the factory every year and they train with the engineers and with the shock builders at the factory. And we also go to the factory, we record videos, we meet with the team there for marketing and everything else. And we're going to show that as part of this video, some of the shop building that happens. All of the Moton and ASTs are also put on the shock dyno after they're built to verify that they're built correctly, and we have a graph and everything that comes with all of them. So it's all a learning process. It's a lot of information, and we're trying to educate people so they can make the right choice for what they want and they don't wind up with a setup that they're not looking for.
The crazy thing is I mentioned a lot of people, right? The people that, because I kept this a secret a little bit, about, change the suspension, because I want to keep suspense, but there's close friends and people that are in the car community that I speak to. And I tell them, like, hey, I'm going with Motons. So, they're blown away because they know the heritage of it.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing about the brand. I mean, when we first started doing a lot of visits, a lot of race team visits, a lot of race shop visits in places that you're not just going to walk into, as soon as they saw my shirt, oh, you're with Moton? Yeah. Oh, come right in. We're going to show you what we're doing. We're going to show you what we're working on. And that's a cool factor, and it's cool to be associated with the brands.
Yeah, and again, the guys here, if you guys have any questions, leave it down below. If it's something that I can't answer based on what I've learned today, I'll definitely pass it over to Sean, and Sean could be able to give you guys a proper answer. And if not, you guys, they can always contact you, right?
Of course, yeah. And we also have a YouTube channel. It's similar. We have that same similar type of viewers. Ken's been working on it about as long as we have. And Ken's videos is more about the experience for him and experience for you guys as a customer of a shop or as a consumer.
Yeah.
But my channel is really about what we do and why, and what we're building and why, and how we do it. So it's a different take totally different channel, totally different information, but I think they fit well together because him and I are a little bit different in the way we go about it. But I just want to share and educate people on what's important, why it's important, why we do the things we do. So when you're ready to make that decision on what you want to do, you maybe give us a chance.
And just to add to that, right, because I'm an F80, I went through probably 4 different suspensions, right, because I just didn't know what to expect. I just didn't have the right, I guess, guidelines or the guidance towards, getting the right spec. If you just talk to somebody that's an expert, right, or in that field, and you tell them exactly what you're looking for, boom, done, right? He could tell you which one you would need, whether it's a 5100, 5200, or a 4-way, right?
Yeah, or not even a coilover. I mean, I had a customer come today that has a G80. He bought the in performance, the gold wheels. I forget the number, the 2021s,
look great,
which are amazing. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to be super low, and we did a set of lowering springs because that was going to work for him. He didn't want to adjust it. He didn't want to do anything. So that's set up. So it's important to, like I said, qualify the customer and what they need and what they're going to be happy with, and that's important. That's a lot of what we do here.
But if you guys haven't watched their YouTube channel, I've watched it, right, just to prepare for this install video, just a little more about the history, knowing what I'm getting myself into. Definitely check their YouTube channel out. Sean talks a lot about the information about the BMW products, BMW, news in general, right? A lot of these things that you should probably know if you're a BMW enthusiast. But Sean, I definitely appreciate it. It's been a long 2 days, but also a very successful 2 days because we got it to work, and it looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it, and I think Ken is too. And I think the more he's going to drive on it, he's going to really enjoy it. And then we'll be back for an update because we're going to do some changes to the car again before Invasion. So we'll touch base then. Thanks a lot.
Yep, no problem.